Hi everyone, it's Howard here with Tilly, and Terry's behind the camera.
Hello.
Doing an update report on the Noah fooling. I'm a third of the way through the course now, so this is an interview to update you all on what's happening in the life of the fool.
Howard, you've been on the road now. Well, it all started in the summer in Germany when you auditioned to be part of the Nomadic Academy of Fooling. And then you've been on the road with Noah since October?
The first station was end of October in Helsinki.
Can you tell us a bit about that journey?
Yeah, and that was quite, well, it's the first time I've been to Finland, so that was exciting to see, Tilly, exciting in and of itself. And that was the first station, so the first part of the actual Nomadic Academy, so the first time I was with the specific group that I was with. I had a wonderful time in Helsinki. It's a lovely city. We ended up cycling into the place that we worked at every day, which was lovely, and actually had some really nice weather there, cycling along the Baltic Sea. It was a lovely way to start work. And in that station we learned, specifically we were learning about the structure of the fool. So the structure is the thing that allows you as a fool to improvise. It's one of the things that gives you the ability to be improvisational, because you have a structure behind you, something that helps you to improvise.
And then on the back of that, you came home briefly, but then you were off to the next station.
It was like autumn was mad. It was basically, I was in Helsinki, I was in London teaching for a month, and then I had about 4 days or something here, and then I was off again to south of France, to Cathar country, so just outside Montpellier, in the hills outside Montpellier. Very different. We don't get to see a huge amount of the cultures there, because we're working in space very focusedly, but you still get some sense of that culture within it. The cultures influence each of the stations, each of the places. So in France, the workspace was on the side of a restaurant, so we ate ridiculously well, being France. I actually came back having put on weight just before Christmas, which wasn't good and isn't normal. I lost weight in Helsinki, but in France, actually, we all came back having put on weight, I think.
And these fellow fools, the other people in your group, are from all over Europe.
Yeah,
is that right?
So we've got a couple of Irish people with us, a Swedish woman from Stockholm, a German woman, and then there's 3 English people, and that can vary each year. So the year above, they're very heavily German fools.
And is it in France that you were looking at the archetypal twin?
Well, in a sense, you're looking at twin all the time, because twinning is a real deep aspect of the fool, of the sense that it's where I find it very kind of esoteric, is it's very much about the world being your twin. So the fool holds up a mirror to the world, but it does it by being the twin of the world, and the world being the twin. So yes, we were looking quite heavily at the archetypal influences on us as performers, on how that comes through our performance, and that's. So France was strange. Helsinki was the structure of the fool, and in a sense, France to me felt.
What can I slow you down a minute to say? What do you mean by the structure of the fool?
Oh well, the structure of the fool is this idea that to do the fooling you have a structure. So you have a bit of the fooling where you're directly interacting with the audience, and you're a bit like I am with you now, listening information out of the audience, and then you have. So that's the first part of the structure. The second part is a play where you drop or capitulate into enacting out scenes that you see, that you create in the moment. So if I was here now talking to you, and then were Tilly to be here, but in terms of fooling, I would imagine I would create Tilly here. In fact, she comes into my fooling quite a lot. She's very often present. She's one of one of my rep company in fooling. I would then act out the scene with Tilly, so that would be a play. And then the third part is this archetypal world, which is sort of here represented by your wonderful, unicorns and things on there. So those are the 3 parts of the structure, and you move through that structure in and out of it in a flow, and that's what gives you these different places that you can play with. And within each of those places, there is the added twin, which gives you, if you imagine you've got then 3 places, but actually that's doubled up because you come back through it, so you've got 6, and in fact you've also got the audience at 7, and each of those places you've got a twin, so automatically in each of those places that's doubled, so you've got that play on a different dimension. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and it sounds wonderfully magical.
It is when it works. You know, I'm learning to do that. When you see Jonathan do it, it's quite incredible, and every now and then you kind of get it a bit, and it's wonderful. It gives you it's very magical. It's very freeing. His phrase is "create or be created," you know, and that's outside of the theatre aspect of it. You're either creating. We're all creating all the time. That's the idea of it. You know, we're all. This is all us creating. You can either be conscious of that or unconscious of it. If you become conscious of it, you start to create. So you start to create in the theatrical sense. You literally start to create scenes on the fly. It's happening. Obviously, outside of life, that becomes, you know, what? How are we creating? What world are we creating? So there is a very deep kind of transformative aspect to the form, which I like. But to go back to your question, I think, which was about what was it?
That Finland was about structure.
Finland was about structure. Yeah. So for me, France was kind of quite a lot about inner. Inner processes. I think part of the training for the Fool is you have to really understand yourself a lot. So you're faced a lot with shadow sides of self. One of the things that came up in France a lot was the archetypal influences that we all have. We all have these deep influences that kind of drive us, mostly unconscious. So one of the things I found out is that I've got a Christ complex, which is, you know, one of those things, which makes sense. You know, it's one of the things that, and to know that means that I can then play with it. So it isn't changing it or not. It's just I can start playing with that. I can start being aware of that, and that becomes part of a twin effect for me. I can play with it. I can play the opposite of it. I can play on it, but I'm aware that that's driving some of my improvisations.
Now, I have the impression that this is rather unusual to have theatre being taught with a real acknowledgement of its old ritual, magical, esoteric roots. That Jonathan is bringing that out in his teaching.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, in a sense, most theatre training pays some homage to that. But not in such a deep way. And it's very often sort of mentioned, theatre has its roots in ceremony and ritual. We don't really know what that is. Moving swiftly on, let's sort of go on there. I like to bring that into my theatre because I work with masks. So I think most people that work with masks, I would imagine, have some sense of that. But I've never had a training that's so kind of explicitly so that we really are specifically dealing with what's called an archetypal world, and we really are trying to access that, and then trying to allow that archetypal world to come through in order to bring some wisdom into the world.
So what's next?
So next is I'm about to go off, what is it, like 10 days to Madrid for the 3rd station, so I'll be halfway through when I get back. I don't know what we're going to be covering out there. That again is going to be very different. Spain, Madrid, very interesting. Meeting back with I don't know what the collective term for fools, gaggle or collective or caravan or ship. I guess ship with my ship of fools. So meeting up with 6 other fools. That's always interesting, re-meeting people who've, will have gone through their own processes, very deep processes, coming back together, re-bonding, finding where we are, more challenges, more fun, more kind of laughter.
And this time you're also coming back to teaching, but this time not commedia, but puppetry at the Curious School of Puppetry.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what you bring into that discipline.
Yeah, well, won't it? So the Curious School is a kind of pop-up school of puppetry, which is amazing. It's the point of it is to be an interface between people just coming out of training and the profession. Set up by Sarah Wright, who's Lindy Wright's daughter. Lindy Wright, who's kind of set up the Little Angel Theatre, which is a theatre I worked at for about 15 years, quite a while back. And I'm very privileged to be teaching. I'm teaching glove puppets, which is, well, the other thing, as you know, I've been my Punch and Judy has been developing, and I'm seeing Punch now very much through the eyes of the fool. So obviously Punch is a fool. He's an old English jester that melded with the Commedia dell'arte Pulcinella figure and became Punch, a really iconic, anarchic figure in kind of British folklore, I suppose, or folk theatre. And I now really view Punch through this structure of the fool, where the play is me coming out as the Punch professor, talking to the children, getting them whipped up.
I've seen your Punch show develop since you've been fooling.
Yeah, I mean,
in a really interesting way.
Yeah, I think it really has. And then there's the play of the puppets themselves playing, and then for me, the archetypal world is myself as the archetypal influence in the puppet booth, this little booth behind the black cloth, sort of animating them all. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting what happens to my teaching, because I teach glove puppets there, and I teach kind of commedia glove puppets. That's how I approach the glove puppets. And again, the fool will come into that, and I'm already, thinking about, well, okay, there's going to be a different approach. I don't really want to pre-think it, because I want to be in there in the moment with the students, with my own sort of ideas with it. But it will be a massive influence, because I'm teaching like the week after I get back.
So between now and your next report, you're going out to the... You're being a fool.
You don't want to be upstage as a fool, do you, Tilly?
You're heading off very soon to Spain.
Yeah.
Then you come back and you teach at Curious School of Puppetry.
Yeah.
Then you're going to be working on your PhD, which is all about fooling and commedia and clowning in Exeter.
Yeah.
Running a workshop with another fool from Bristol.
Yeah.
And then off to Germany for the next
Berlin.
station.
Yeah.
And probably after the Germany trip, you'll be then 2/3 of the way through your journey, and we'll do another report.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. So that's the update on where I'm at with Noah and my journey into the fall. Fundraising continues. Really super grateful to everybody who's donated so far. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to me to be able to do this. It's a really important part of my next stage of my work. I'm about to go off to Madrid, and then I'll be in Berlin, and when I come back from that, I'll give you an update when I'm 2/3 of the way through the course. So thank you very much. Bye.
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 Say bye, Tilly.
Bye.